This review has been sponsored by the author Greg Palmer to promote his new book, Infinity. It's a great book. Stick around and I'll tell you all about it at the end. Okay, on with the review. Okay, on to the movie. Let's talk about Blade Runner, the original. It's a film that has had significant impact on the science fiction genre and popular culture as a whole. However, like any work of art, it is not without its flaws and criticisms. In this review, we will explore some of the criticisms that have been levelled against Blade Runner over the years and take a look at the sequel. One of the main criticisms of Blade Runner is its slow pace and convoluted plot. The film is known for its deliberate pacing, with long stretches of dialogue and character development, interspersed with moments of action and suspense. While some viewers appreciate this pacing as a way of building tension, others find it tedious and boring. For many viewers, it's the immersion in another world that provides the most important movie experience. The film's plot is also often criticised for being too difficult to follow. Blade Runner takes place in a dystopian future where genetically engineered beings known as replicants have been created to serve humanity. When a group of replicants rebel against their creators and come to Earth to seek out their maker, a former Blade Runner named Rick Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, is tasked with tracking them down and retiring them. However, as the film progresses, it becomes clear that there are more complex political and ethical issues at play, and the plot can become very difficult to follow. All great movies are based on novels, and this is no exception. It was inspired by the story by Philip K. Dick called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? The movie and the book diverged significantly, however, and the script writers improved Dick's story greatly. Another criticism of Blade Runner is its portrayal of women. The female characters in the film are often portrayed as passive or subservient, and their roles in the story are limited. Rachel, the female lead, is initially presented as a love interest for Deckard and is portrayed as vulnerable and helpless. Later in the film, she becomes more assertive and independent, but some viewers have criticised her character arc as being underdeveloped and relying too heavily on traditional gender roles. Sure, but sci-fi is pretty much a male thing, and most but not all women are not at all that interested anyway. The film's use of violence has also been criticised, I think wrongly. While Blade Runner is not a particularly violent film by modern standards, some viewers have argued that the movie glorifies violence and uses it for shock value rather than as a commentary on society or human nature. The film's depiction of violence towards the replicants, who are presented as sympathetic characters with their own desires and motivations, has been seen rather dubious by some viewers who see it as reinforcing harmful stereotypes about marginalised groups. Which is a bit of a bore if you ask me. Another criticism of Blade Runner is its treatment of the themes of artificial intelligence and humanity, something which has become very topical in the last year. While the film raises important questions about what it means to be human and whether or not artificial beings can have consciousness and emotions, some viewers and critics have argued that it ultimately fails to provide a satisfying or coherent message about these themes. The film's ending, which leaves the question of whether Deckard is a replicant or a human, is open to interpretation. It has been seen as both ambiguous and unsatisfying by different viewers, but for me, all the best tales are not so clear-cut. Finally, some critics have argued that the film's visual style, while impressive, can be distracting or overwhelming. Blade Runner's iconic futuristic cityscapes and neo-noir aesthetic can sometimes overshadow the characters and the story, making it difficult for viewers to connect with the characters and fully engage with the film's themes and messages. Despite these criticisms, Blade Runner remains a groundbreaking and influential film in the science fiction genre. Its themes of artificial intelligence, humanity, and identity continue to be explored in contemporary science fiction, and its visual style and aesthetics have had a significant impact on popular culture. While the film may not be perfect, it is a valuable and important contribution to the science fiction canon. It is also worth noting that some of the criticisms of Blade Runner may be more relevant to the film's original theatrical release in 1982 than to its subsequent re-releases and director's cuts. Over the years, several different versions of the film have been released, each with a slightly different edit and with additions. Some of these changes, such as the addition of a voice-over narration by Harrison Ford in the original release, have been criticised for being unnecessary and detracting from the film's atmosphere and tone. However, some of the later versions of the film, such as the final cut, released in 2007, have been praised for their improved pacing, better characterization, and clearer narrative structure. These changes have helped to address some of the criticisms that have been levelled against the film over the years, and have helped to solidify Blade Runner's status as a classic of the science fiction genre. One of the strengths of Blade Runner is its ability to inspire thought and discussion among the viewers. The film raises complex questions about what it means to be human, the nature of consciousness, and the implications of creating artificial life. While the film may not provide clear or definitive answers to these questions, it encourages viewers to think deeply about these issues and to consider their own perspectives and beliefs. Blade Runner also features strong performances by its cast, particularly Harrison Ford as Rick Deckard and the iconic Rutger Hauer as Roy Batty, the leader of the rogue replicants. Ford brings a world-weary, cynical charm to his role as the disillusioned Blade Runner, while Hauer imbues his charismatic character with a tragic nobility that makes him compelling and a sympathetic antagonist. It is also important to note that Blade Runner's impact on the science fiction genre and popular culture cannot be overstated. The film's influence can be seen in countless other works of science fiction, from films like The Matrix to pioneering television shows like Black Mirror. Its themes and ideas have become a staple of the genre, and its visual style has been imitated and paid homage to in countless other films and TV shows. Okay, now on to the sequel, Blade Runner 2049. It was directed by Denis Villeneuve and starring pretty boy Ryan Gosling and a rather grizzled Harrison Ford. The film takes place 30 years after the events of the original and follows a new replicant Blade Runner known as K, as he undercovers a dark conspiracy that could change the course of humanity. While Blade Runner 2049 has received widespread critical acclaim and has been praised for its stunning visuals and atmospheric world building, it is not without its criticisms and detractors. One of the most common criticisms of the movie is that it's too long and slow-paced. The film has a runtime of almost 3 hours, and some viewers have found it to be overly indulgent and self-serious in its pacing and storytelling. While the film's deliberate pace can be seen as a strength by some, others have criticised it for being far too slow and meandering, with too much emphasis placed on creating atmosphere and not enough on developing character and plot. Another criticism of Blade Runner 2049 is that it relies too heavily on nostalgia and references to the original film. While the film does expand on world building and themes of the original, some viewers have criticised it for being too reliant on callbacks and references to the first film, rather than standing on its own as a unique and compelling work. Additionally, some have criticised the film's treatment of its female characters, who are often relegated to supporting roles or treated as objects of desire for the male protagonists. Despite these criticisms, Blade Runner 2049 has been widely praised for its stunning visual style and world building. The film's dystopian future cityscapes, dark and moody lighting, and striking use of colour create a vivid and immersive world that draws viewers in and keeps them engaged. Additionally, the film's score, composed by Hans Zimmer and Benjamin Wallfisch, has been praised for its haunting and evocative themes, which perfectly complement the film's visuals and atmosphere. Furthermore, Blade Runner 2049 has been praised for its strong performances, particularly by Ryan Gosling as the enigmata Blade Runner K, and Harrison Ford as the returning character of Rick Deckard. Gosling brings a quiet intensity to his role, balancing vulnerability and strength in a nuanced performance, while Ford brings a world-weary gravitas to his older, more cynical version of Deckard. Despite its critical acclaim, Blade Runner 2049 was a box office disappointment, failing to recoup its high production costs. Some have speculated that the film's lengthy runtime and deliberate pacing may have contributed to its lack of commercial success, while others have pointed to its status as a sequel to a cult classic as being a potential hurdle. And now I'm going to hand you over to Sweary Grandpa for his take. And be warned, foul language is going to be used here, because he's Sweary Grandpa. Well, let me tell you something about that damn movie Blade Runner 2049, young man. I have seen some real stinkers in my time, but that one takes the cake. And not just any cake, mind you, but a cake that's been left out in the rain for 3 days straight. First of all, the damn thing was way too long. I mean, who has the attention span to sit through 2.5 hours of that garbage? And don't even get me started on the plot. It was convoluted and confusing, and I couldn't even tell you what the hell was going on half the time. And the characters? They were all so damn wooden and unlikable. Ryan Gosling may be a pretty boy, but he couldn't act his way out of a paper bag. And don't even get me started on Jared Leto's creepy-ass character. That guy gives me the heebie-jeebies. And what was with all that damn rain? Yeah, I get it that it's supposed to be a dystopian future and all that, but come on. It was like they were trying to make up for the lack of substance in the story by drenching everything in sight. They can make droids, but they can't stop the fucking rain. And the worst part, they had the audacity to try and cash in on the success of the original Blade Runner. Let me tell you something. That movie was a masterpiece. Ridley Scott knew what the hell he was doing, But this 2049 crap, it was just a pale imitation. So there you have it, kiddo. My thoughts on Blade Runner 2049. It was a steaming pile of daub crap, and I wouldn't recommend it to my worst enemy. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to pour myself a glass of whiskey and try to forget I ever wasted my time on that garbage. Well, thank you, Sweary Grandpa, for your take on Blade Runner 2049. I'm sure you have enlightened a few people. So, dear viewer, let me tell you about the new book by Greg Palmer, which is titled Infinity. So here's the cover blurb. A university historian is forced to plunder high-value treasures of the past using a billionaire's secret prototype time-tunneling technology and must battle a psychopath back in deep time, as well as technology screw-ups and the universe itself. Edward Henson is at the peak of his academic career when he and his wife Katie are left critically injured by a car crash during a blizzard. A mysterious figure appears at the historian's hospital bedside and offers him a Faustian bargain: full health aided by cutting-edge chip implants upgrading his brain with all the knowledge of mankind, or the bleak alternative, voluntary euthanasia. But if Henson accepts this deal, he must break with all of his academic ethics and travel back in time to steal the treasures of the past for his rich patron, Dominic Leblanc, a man who has almost everything money could ever buy. Meanwhile, Katie Henson is the millionaire's spare, but she escapes her patron's control and has plans of her own. Infinity is a fast-moving tale of love, betrayal, loss and revenge, grounded on the latest academic research on the nature of space-time and time travel. You should treat yourself to a fascinating light read which will remain with you long after you have finished the last chapter. Okay folks, that's it. Bye.